Hello, my name is KAREN Dailly. Welcome to our next video in EKKO Title's third annual legislative update series. With me today is Marcus Simon, who not only is the attorney and branch manager for EKKO Title's McLean office, but is also a member of the Virginia House of Delegates. Marcus, the third statute that I saw had changes was the Residential Disclosure Act, which, as you and I know, generally the seller is saying, hey buyer, I am not making any statements with regard to certain categories. And I saw that there was an additional category added, and then also an affirmative action that a seller does have to do was also added. So let's talk about what is the new category that a seller is telling a buyer, I make no promises about.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we can ever go a year without messing with the Residential Property Disclosure Act, or maybe 1 year we just revamp the whole thing. But yeah, it seems like every year we're adding to this list of things that we don't tell you. And so this year's list of things we don't tell you is anything having to do with where the lot lines are, right? So as a seller, I don't make any representations as to the shape of the property, what the lot looks like, where the lot lines end. So I can't, don't come out in the back porch with me. I'll just sort of point, yeah, it's from that tree over there and following that line, and about where that wasp's nest is, that's the property line. You can't count on that. Maybe you can have that conversation, but that's not going to be a representation that anybody should rely on. Instead, you should be relying on the professional advice of a surveyor. And maybe you want to get it's a reasonably and prudent thing to do to hire a surveyor and survey company to create a survey of the property. Just like you don't want to count on the seller to tell you, oh yeah, this is a really well-built house, it's in good shape. We want you to go hire a home inspector to tell you whether that's true or not. So the same sort of a deal, but for lot lines. And so it's one more place where we say, don't believe anything I say, get your own trusted professional to give you that advice.
And perhaps not only what I say, but what I give you. If I had a survey that was done a few years early, whether it was 10 or maybe 5 years ago, still as a buyer, it's a good idea to hire your own surveyor to verify that the property hasn't changed.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that's happened to save a couple dollars here or there.
Right.
Sometimes people don't want to do a survey. Maybe I'll just rely on the one. The seller had one that was done 13, 14, 15 years ago. How much different could it be, right?
Yeah.
It can be awfully different sometimes. So if the survey company's still around, if you're trying to save some money, you might be able to get them to recertify that survey. So at least they'll have a beginning point and make the field work a little bit easier, fewer hours in preparation, so maybe it's less expensive. The other thing that's a trend that worries me a little bit, part of the reason I think we're having to add this disclosure is a lot of people are being told by their lender, oh, you don't need a survey, right? It's not required. Well, it's not required by the lender because the lender has negotiated with all the national title insurance companies for a survey exception, whether or not they have a survey, right? They're going to be covered. As an owner, you're not covered for encroachments, problems with the boundary lines, zoning problems. None of that's covered on your owner's policy. So even if your lender tells you don't worry about it, it's optional, it's still really valuable for buyers. And so buyers, this is another place to sort of remind them, hey, you really ought to consider getting yourself a survey of your property.
Because while it may be small expense and $500 may seem a lot, but at the end of the day, if it solves a problem that could be several thousands of dollars, it's worth the return on investment to do.
Right. We don't have a lot of consumer protection for buyers, but one of the things we do want to do is to tell them what you don't know can hurt you later.
Yep.
So try and find these things out.
And now let's talk about the affirmative action that a seller has to do. That was added this year.
Yeah, we don't have a whole lot of affirmative disclosures. As you said, most of them, it's a list of things we don't tell you. But for some things, it's such a big deal, you really need to know. So if you're involved in active litigation over the ownership of the property, right, where somebody else says, hey, I think I'm an owner or I have the right to buy this property, they can file a legal document called a lis pendens, right? It's something they file with the court saying, hey, court, don't let anybody else sign a deed or take ownership of this property until my litigation's been resolved. If you as a seller know this lawsuit's going on, you know that their claim is that they own the property, and you know they've actually filed a lis pendens, which will make it impossible for the buyer to get title insurance and be able to actually settle and take possession of the property. If you know all that in advance, you must disclose that to your prospective purchaser. So you can't get to the end and think, oh look, now I have a new ally in my lawsuit against the previous litigant because he wants to move in as bad as I do.
Yeah. Maybe
he'll join the suit. That's not, you don't want to lure buyers into your litigation. So if you know that's going on, you've got to affirmatively disclose it ahead of time if you actually know it.
And that's key, actual knowledge.
Right. It's not just the fact that it's been filed, which gives everybody in the world, quote unquote, constructive knowledge.
Right.
You have to have actual knowledge.
Thank you, Marcus, for this excellent information. Hopefully it will be helpful and useful to realtors. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to post in the comments section below or reach out to any one of us at any one of our locations. We're always here to help you. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which has all of our videos that you can access and share with your clients. Thank you and have a great day.